All right, guys. So today for our Zoom quarantine special, we have the beautiful Brittney. So,
Hi.
Brittney, if you can just jump in and introduce yourself and tell the people a little about you.
So I am Brittney. I live here in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I've been in Georgia for pretty much the majority of my life. I was born in Chicago, so like both my parents are from the Midwest, and they're really cool people. They taught me how to love people and be very open-minded to a lot of different things. And I guess that kind of opened up to us being part of like a very multicultural church out in Norcross. And I grew up and I knew about Jesus then, but it wasn't something that I could like fully grasp and understand as a kid. Uh, but I loved being there. It was like a place of like safety and of peace because, although my parents, I think at some point they really did love each other, they argued a lot. So I remember a lot of good times, but I also remember a lot of fights, a lot of things being thrown. And I had different ways of like coping. I loved music. I still love music. So like my parents, they are very diverse in their music taste. So I loved a lot of different artists, a lot of things from like the 80s up until, basically this point. So I was very open-minded to a lot of different things. But when we moved to Winder, it was a completely different story. I went there when I was in the 5th grade, and automatically I felt like I was the oddball. Like coming from a school system in Tucker, I had a lot of different like diverse friends from Turkey, friends from Russia, friends from Germany, friends from Japan. So it was like I was never clueless to the fact that I was around different people. But when I got to Winder and it was mostly like just Black people and white people, the Black community ironically didn't really receive me as well. So I was considered the Oreo. I was the girl who was Black on the outside, white on the inside, and there was really no getting away from it. So from 5th grade on up to the time that I graduated in high school, I had a majority of white friends, and I was completely comfortable with them. We were all kind of oddballs. I hung out with the satanic people. I hung out with the lesbians, the gays. I hung out with a lot of different people, and I loved every single one of them. But I just never really felt very comfortable with other people that looked like me, and they just never received me very well. When my parents fought, like I said, I had different coping mechanisms, and so one of them was porn. And I discovered pornography when I was 8 years old, actually. So from 8 years old all the way up to, I mean, I still struggle with it every once in a while now, but when I really realized that I had a problem, I was 19 years old. And that's when I basically rededicated my life to Jesus. My parents had gotten a divorce right when I was in high school, or a little bit after I graduated high school. I have a younger brother, we're 6 years apart, so we just dealt with things in our own way. He started smoking weed and he started popping pills, I think before he even hit like the 10th grade, and I watched porn and I was sexually active. Um, and so when I realized that I had a problem, we had already moved out of Winder. My parents lost the house. My parents got divorced. We moved to Decula, and then eventually ended up in Lawrenceville. And I started going to another church for their young adult ministry, and I loved it. It was so different from what I was used to. I had never bothered to join a young adult church at my church because I knew too many people, and I knew that this was going to be the place that I was going to just let all my stuff out. So I went to a all girls Bible study, and this is like kind of where it all started for me. This girl started like sharing her stuff, and she started telling us that she had an issue with porn. And I was like, I'm not by myself. Okay, this is cool. This is a good stepping point. Um, and so everyone starts talking and asking for prayer in different areas. And I was like, now's the time, Brittney, now's the time. And eventually I got up the nerve and I was like, I have an issue with porn. I've had an issue with porn since I was 8. Um, Basically being just super transparent with them. And then that same night, like God, I was on my way to my car, and I could like strongly feel like God was saying, you need to tell your mom. And I was like, Lord, I don't really know if you know who my mother is, but she's from Chicago. And I've been lying to her for years. And the last thing that I need is to get popped, like, by her. We're good. So I'm going to skip that. But it was like this pressure that was not painful, but it was definitely evident that like obedience was needed in this moment. And I was like, all right, Jesus, like, you got to protect me. Like, I don't have time to go to the hospital. Like, we're good. And the funny thing is, my mom is not a violent person. Like, she really isn't. She's probably one of the sweetest people that you'll ever meet. I can bring my friends over. She'll cook for them or bake a cake for them or something. Like, she's just that, like, kind of inviting person. And so I called her and I was like, Ma, what are you doing? And she's like, about to go to bed. Why? And I was like, well, can you meet me outside of the apartment complex? Like, can we just go and talk for a little bit? So we met outside and I just like came clean. So if just imagine in the scene of Goonies when that kid starts confessing all of his stuff unnecessarily, but he's like confessing all of his stuff. And that was basically me. I just started like throwing up everything and just telling her, like, you know, she knew about the porn. She didn't know that I was still watching it, but she was, when I was 8, I had gotten busted because like I had like the magazine that I had found in the house. And I got in trouble that day and things like that. So she knew about the porn and I wasn't blamed for it because it technically really wasn't my fault. I didn't bring it in the house, but she knew that in that day that it happened, she didn't know that I was continuously watching it as I got older. And she like got real quiet. I'm telling her all this stuff. She got really quiet and I'm like bracing myself. I'm like, I'm kicked out. Something's happened. Literally, like, she hugged me and she's like, I forgive you. I love you. We'll get through this. And I just lost it. Like, that was my real moment of like knowing what God's forgiveness was, knowing what grace was, knowing what his love was. I was just like completely baffled. Was completely baffled at the fact that like this was happening. Like, she wasn't angry with me. Yeah, she was a little hurt that I lied to her. But I can't even explain it. It was just this beautiful moment. So from that point on, I entered a recovery program, not like a outpatient thing. It's called Celebrate Recovery, and we had it at our church. But it was my mom and like a bunch of other people. They were going through the leadership part together, so they knew what the process was before they became it. They like brought it to be like this big thing and invite the church congregation. So she went through this process, and they were right before they were about to announce it to the rest of the church. And she's like, I think this would be good for you. So I went, and I had done that for quite an amount of time. I went through the program, went through the 12 steps. I went through being a leader for the elementary school kids and the high school kids. Eventually they did add those age groups in, and that was probably some of the best years of my life. But my first tattoo was a representation of that, just of that freedom that I had experienced that first year and a half. And I was like, I haven't watched porn in a year and a half. I haven't touched a guy in a year and a half. Like, this is crazy. It's just been like this crazy roller coaster of just God's grace and like knowing what it is. Like, sometimes it still baffles me. Like, I don't understand it. And I think that's something that is never going to be fully understood. But like, you know that when you experience it, you're like, okay, kind of understandable, not really. I don't know. Like, things have so much, like, changed so much over the years. I mean, I have 3 tattoos that basically go into the things that I've gone through in my life. My relationship with my dad had a rocky point. We weren't really talking on and off for like 10 years. And then a couple of years ago was my first time seeing my dad in 10 years. And it was awkward. Because I was going to be stuck on a cruise ship for a whole week with him, my stepmom, my stepbrothers, and I was like, Like, the last time that I saw y'all, I made my stepmom cry. My brothers felt abandoned. My dad was angry. So it was just this really awkward moment of like, we're stuck in the middle of the ocean together. Yay. Like, but it was good. I shared my side of things with my younger stepbrother. And he was like, I always wanted a sister. Like, what happened? Why'd you leave? Because I had went to Texas for maybe 4 months, and like me and him had a really cool bond. Like, we both love Disney. We both love watching movies. So he was only like maybe 6 or 7 when I left. And when I left, he was just completely messed up. And so, but I explained some things to him, and he was like, no matter really what happens with both of our parents, like, you're still my sister. And I was like, whoa, okay, thank you. Like, I'm glad that you don't hate me or you feel abandoned by me. Like, it was never my intention. It was just the things that were going on between my dad and my stepmom and I. Like, it wasn't going to work out at that moment, because we were still going through that that grieving process of what happens when your parents divorce. So now, I'm 31 years old. I have a different perspective of life, and I have a lot more hope, I think. And I'm very transparent with a lot of the things that I've gone through, and with people. I've been laughed at about the whole pornography situation, which I thought was kind of weird, because even people that aren't Christians, they still have pornography issues. So I was like, I don't see what's funny, but okay, whatever. Yeah, it's like, God's so good. Like, I can't even explain it. It's like this crazy joy that happens whenever I talk about the things that He's revealed to me. Learning about myself and my identity and being His daughter has really shown me how to love other people and give other people grace, even when I don't give myself that kind of grace. Like, I've definitely just experienced like this amount of love and forgiveness that I'm like, that has to be a ripple effect with whoever I touch and whoever I'm around. And I don't know, like, I don't have like this traumatic story, and I think that people confuse like having a testimony with having like a traumatic story, and feeling like they have to have that kind of evidence to know of God's mercy. But you could have a very chill story, and it's your story. Like, you got to own it, and however God moved through it, like, that's just what it is.
Yeah,
But no.
we 100% believe that. I mean, a testimony doesn't have to be this, oh my God, I was in jail and I was, addicted to heroin, all of this. I mean, it sounds like for you, it was just a progression of life and things that you've gone through of not really feeling acceptance, right, into your own race or into other which is such an issue right now that we're going through in this world. I mean, my gosh, don't be my Facebook friend right now because I'm probably blowing you up. But sorry, not sorry. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, sometimes it really is just an evolution of, man, I haven't really had this like super low moment in my life, but it's just been a series of a bunch of crap that I've had to go through. And this is what's made me. And this is how I have found Jesus in every step of the way. So I think, I think it's awesome. I think I'm really proud of you for sharing, your struggle with pornography, because it's very real. And a lot of people, way more than we could possibly even imagine, go through it. And so being a light to say, I also believe we talk about this too with addiction, just in general. Sometimes it's not just hey, I went through this program and I got free and I'm completely fine now. I mean, a lot of it is a process, and it's a healing you have to go through.
And I actually wanted to ask a question regarding what you just said. Where are you at right now with things, just in life, with the addiction, you said it's a struggle now, but not like sometimes a struggle, but not what it was. But it's kind of like, where are you at right now with things, in real time?
Yeah, so in real time, honestly, I do still struggle. There are times where I can go maybe almost a month and not watch porn, and I'm good. And I think it's when I keep myself busy and I keep myself focused on Jesus, then it's a completely different story. But when, and like even now, like I basically just ended a sexual relationship with somebody that I met last year. And there's a lot of, it's so interesting because before I even walked into it, I felt God be like, I know that you're going to do it, but in the time that you've messed up, I need you to not crawl back to me. I need you to stand up and walk with your head high. And I was like, are you sure you want me to? He's like, yeah, I do. Like, I got this. Like, I'm not surprised by what you're about to do, and I'm not going to be surprised by the outcome, like whatever it is going to happen. So for 4 months, I was like sleeping with somebody and then tried to cut it off. Didn't work. It was just like a lot of arguing between he and I, and then started sleeping with him again. And then I just recently was like, I can't do this anymore, because I knew that there was like this very evident like rift between me and God, that there was just like, I wasn't praying, I wasn't going to church, like even I wasn't even watching the sermons. Like, you know, we're not necessarily able to meet in a group setting right now, but like I wasn't trying to watch the sermons, I wasn't trying to hear any of it, because I was so focused on making sure that he was taken care of, like this guy was taken care of, and that, you know, we were always in constant communication. But right now, like, I'm considering going back into Celebrate Recovery if it comes up again, if I can find one that's good. But I'm definitely trying to be more accountable with other people. So like right now, I just got like my iPhone passcode changed from my friend, because you can change the settings and you can basically have somebody change, like limit the adult settings that you can be on your phone. So we just did that. Me and her mutually did that, me and my friend, because we were struggling with the same thing, not going to sleep with other people or not watching porn as a way to like self-gratify or whatever, because we're both single women and we're trying to go for something. But it feels like God's moving too slow. So you're like, okay, I'm just going to take care of myself. Like, I'm just going to go find somebody or whatever. So like right now, my whole prayer is to allow the Holy Spirit to do whatever he needs, be completely under the reconstruction process, and just surrender it all. Like, I'm a firm believer that anything that I've watched in the past can be completely erased from my mind. Like, it's a weird thing, and I've heard it happen to other people, but I still struggle like with the images, because I can still remember some things, and it does trigger a lot of things. It triggers like the lonely moments or whatever, but like I'm for real very like hopeful that this is the end, because I don't want to bring that into my own family when I have that one day. Because my brother and my dad had a problem with it as well. So
it's kind of weird. I feel like when people think about the consequences of their actions, they think like, oh, you know, fire, brimstone, or you know, all these really bad things are going to happen to me if I do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times the consequences of our actions are having to, you know, live with the memory of what we've done and like move on from that. You know what I mean? Like the self damage that's happened. And so it's definitely a hard thing, and you're definitely going to get through it. And we've all been there to some degree, you know. So there's definitely a light at the end of that tunnel.
Sean, that's so good, because I think too, like, that's what we don't want the church to be, and that's sometimes what the church is viewed as, is that it's a bunch of people telling you that you're wrong, and you're like, dude, I know I'm wrong. Like, I know that what I'm doing is wrong, but I'm struggling, and I want somebody that's going to be here to love me through it, and someone that, you know, we just really believe in. You know, Sean and I have talked about this several times. We don't want to film a bunch of people that are just all healed and are like, hey, this was my life, and like everything's perfect and God's good, you know, because he is, but that's not the reality of a lot of people's situations. And we want to meet people right where they're at. And so that's exactly what you're doing. So Brittney, can you kind of jump in and tell us, you have 3 tattoos, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about those, what they are and what they mean to you?
Yeah, so for a very long period of my 20s, I had an obsession with like skeleton keys. I love antiques. I love going to antique shops. So my first tattoo is a key. It's on my shoulder, and in the middle of it, it says freedom. And that marked the year and a half that I was free from porn through Celebrate Recovery and having accountability with my sponsor, who she also had an issue with porn, and she never really told anybody. So when I was open about it with other people, she was more open about it with other people, which I thought was great. So I felt like freedom through your testimony is definitely essential in your walk with Jesus, because you are bringing other people free. And I just felt so much of that when I was in that ministry and when I was talking to a lot of people about stuff. My second tattoo I got when I was 25 years old. It was actually on my 25th birthday, and it's the song lyric "You Know Me" by Bethel. And I entered a period of my life where I just felt completely invisible, because what triggered me into walking into that lifestyle of like watching porn again was because of heartbreak. I had liked somebody and I thought he liked me, and it didn't work out the way that I thought. Even though I was having dreams and I was having conversations with people, his mom and I, we got along together, and it was just like, it hurt when he was like, I want to go talk to this other girl. I'm sorry if I led you on, whatever. And I was like, God, like, what happened? Like, literally, this all seemed to be working out perfectly fine. And so when that happened, I kind of just distanced myself from God, because it's like, you clearly don't know my heart if you let this happen. Like, it's completely unfair for me to have to go through this. And so I had this like hard resentment towards men for a while. It wasn't that I just hated them. I have a lot of male friends, but I just felt completely abandoned by God, and it just hurt so much. And thank God I'm healed from that season, but it definitely brought a lot of perspectives in to certain situations of just how, like, God was like, I'm trying to show you something that you need to be more aware of, like the men that you are around. Like, every guy that gives you attention is not gonna know you, but I know you. And Psalm 139 about talking about how like his thoughts of you outnumber the grains of sand. And I think I actually went to the beach when I had read that. I was like looking around and completely in awe, like, God, you really do know me. Like, there's no doubt about it. You know me, and I'm just going to trust you in whatever season I walk into in my life. And but my third tattoo is probably my favorite one. So it's a sword that blooms into a bouquet of wildflowers. I recently started like being obsessed with wanting to buy flowers and putting them in my room and putting them throughout the house. So that tattoo represents a struggle of my identity that I kind of didn't even really know that I had, with being rejected by people that look like me, with feeling like I wasn't enough for my dad, because my dad, I like told my dad, when him and my mom had separated, like, I was like, Dad, like, I want you here. Like, me and DJ, we need you here in Georgia. We don't want you in Texas. Like, why can't you just come back home and work it out with mom, like co-parent with mom or whatever? And he apologized for this. So if I end up posting this up on Instagram or whatever, like, I don't want him to call me and be like, you said you forgive me for this. But no, he's like, I don't love you and your brother enough to stay in Georgia. And I was like, awesome. Love you too. Bye. And that kind of started the separation of us not talking. So I had this wall up that it was like, I was never good enough to be just his daughter. This tattoo has many different layers to it, but with being Black and rejected, with feeling like I wasn't woman enough for somebody to stay around for me, that included my dad, that included the guy that I liked. It all brought the shield in my heart that I was like, I'm just gonna like screw men, forget y'all, I'm just gonna do me, I'm gonna do whatever, and I'm gonna play the game like y'all do. And so I brought up this like tough exterior that I had to be strong, and I had to prove myself to other people that you can't hurt me, that you can't, there's nothing that you can do or say to me that's gonna hurt me. And so in me bringing up that mindset in my head, I was like, there's no way that I can just be this and this. Like, I didn't feel like there was this permission to be at like the table or at my own table where I could be strong and beautiful at the same time. So I chose to be strong, which, funny enough, that's what my name means. It means strong. I just was doing it the wrong way. So I was acting like things didn't bother me, and really holding a lot of my resentment. So I was being strong to the point where most people did not want to talk to me, or I just brought this wall, like I was kind of stuck up. But I was in a hotel room one day in Orlando, and my pastor was doing like a women's gathering thing, which I don't normally go to. Like, I like them, but they always felt very fluffy, and I felt like I was way too, not manly, like I'm not like trying to be a man or whatever, but it was like, this is too girly for me. I'm done. Like, I don't want to do that. I considered femininity a weakness, like in a way where it's like, if you like pink, don't talk to me. If you find flowers and things attractive, don't talk to me. If you think babies are cute, don't talk to me. Like, I just didn't want to do anything that broke down that wall that I had built for so long. And she was talking about how like women like basically like me struggle with the same thing. And she's like, you don't have to choose to be strong and beautiful. You can have both. So I have this sword, which is Frodo's sword, nerd moment. And it turned into a bouquet because it was in that night that I was like, I can be strong and beautiful. I can be a threat and be beautiful. I can be wildflowers who are under the grace of God to survive the next day, to be under his source of light. And I could still be beautiful. I could still be welcoming and soft and inviting, but I can also be, I can be strong, but not in a way where it's built up by my own hands or by my own strength, but by like God's strength. And like, he could show me how to do that. He could show me how to be strong, not in a way that is to self-preserve, and to keep myself from being hurt, but in a way that is glorifying to him still. And it's been such a crazy ride. Like, it's been like, this tattoo, people see this tattoo first because I always roll my sleeves up at work. So they're always asking me, and I'm like, I just felt like I needed some type of representation, a reminder that like, it's perfectly okay to be a threat and still be beautiful at the same time. Like, you could be a threat for the kingdom and still wear pink and get your nails done and get your toes done and do all this other stuff. Because my identity was just so attacked over years with the porn, with being promiscuous, with feel like I wasn't enough, I wasn't Black enough. And even now, like, I'm finding my own voice even in our current situation with, George Floyd, because it's like, when you're excluded from the table, you don't feel like you're able to have that part of the conversation. Like, is it going to be well received or anything like that? But I'm finding my identity again. Like, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me to begin with. Like, and it's so funny. Like, I run into people that I went into high school with that did not like me, that were like, you're too white, like, you're an Oreo, like, there's no way that you're Black. They would always assume that I was mixed with something. And I'm like, I didn't know that was a good influence of because I enunciate, I'm sorry, like, whatever. But they will show up at my job, just shopping, and they live in the area now or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, they're genuinely wanting to ask how I'm doing and, how's life after high school and things like that. And I even had one girl, she's like, I feel like I was mean to you in high school. And I was like, uh-huh, yeah, a little. Why? And she's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I was immature. I was in high school and you didn't deserve that. Like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I said. I don't know exactly what I did, but I know I just felt like like we weren't friends and we lived in the same neighborhood. We rode the same bus. Our classes were always around each other. So it was like, she didn't like me just because of what was perceived by her other friends. And she's like, I'm so, so sorry. Please forgive me. And I was like, that was Jesus. Because first of all, old Brittney probably would have snapped off on her. Like, and I'm not like an angry person, but I would have been like, yeah, girl, you should be sorry. I'm dope. Like, you should not mess with me like that. But no, she apologized. And I was like, hey, like, it's good. Like, we grow up, and thank God for that, because otherwise everybody would be hurt and bruised and stuff like that. But yeah, like, all three of my tattoos just had something to do with my identity. And knowing my worth, and finding my seat at the table and not walking away from it just because of something that of a lie that was told to me over the years, and holding on to that lie and thinking that was part of who I was when it really wasn't to begin with.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I love everything that you said. I think that's so true. And it hits home really right now too, because there are times where I felt like I couldn't have a seat at the table because I was white. And I'm like, no, I'm going to speak up. And I think we're all equipped by God, right? We all are anointed to speak out in love. So real quick, we got a couple minutes left. Sean, unless you have another question. So if you've got a platform right now, we're going to share this video. And actually your video will be shared next week. So
Okay.
If you could tell anybody one thing, like if you just pass somebody on the street, what would you tell them? It could literally be about strength, about Jesus, about whatever you would want.
One of my favorite movies to this day is Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore. Love Drew Barrymore. And there's a scene in the movie where she said, I think she was when she was writing a letter in the newspaper, and she said, find out who you are and try not to be afraid of it. And I think in our life, we are so consumed with the idea that we have to be what everybody wants us to be. We lose our identity in that. And we live into this lie that we have to accommodate everybody else so they can feel comfortable around us. And so what I would say to somebody is find out who you are and try not to be afraid of it, and thrive in it and grow in it and bloom in it, and let it just be contagious. Whatever it is, like, just do it, because that's who you are. That's who you're created to be. And there's no reason why you should hide that or feel like you have to lie about it at all. Like, it's completely unfair to the creator for you to hide that. Like, that's who he made you to be. So just find out who you are and try not to be afraid of it.
That's awesome. I love that. So true. So true. Yeah. Sean, anything else before we jump?
I think everything got covered there. I'm pretty happy with everything. So
cool.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
no problem.
Thank you so much, Brittney. I mean, your story is going to reach people, and it's going to make people feel like they're not alone and that they're normal, which is really cool. So we so appreciate your time. We appreciate your vulnerability, and I'll be in touch with you about details moving forward.
Yes, of course. No problem.